Welcome, lovers of suspense and horror. Today we delve into one of the most disturbing stories in recent cinema. The Black Phone. A film where darkness hides secrets, silence keeps voices, and a disconnected phone can become the last hope for a child trapped by a brutal kidnapper. Get ready because this is the first part of our analysis, where we explore its characters, its mysteries, and the psychological terror that makes it a must-see, in which a ruthless masked killer holds Finn Blake, a 13-year-old boy, captive in a basement isolated from the outside world. However, an old disconnected telephone becomes his last hope, as through it the voices of the killer's previous victims try to help him survive what they could not. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe and like. Now let's get started. It all begins in northern Denver in 1978 during a peaceful baseball game where we meet Finn, the team's pitcher, who tries to strike out the next batter. Bruce, he is a rising star in baseball. Although both boys are extremely competitive, each gives his best. Unfortunately, Finn's team loses at the last moment. Our protagonist behaves respectfully towards Bruce, the young man he failed to strike out. Over the next few days, Bruce observes the world in a different way from everyone else, as if there were joy in every corner. Meanwhile, Finn tries out one of his toy rockets once again, only to come across a mysterious black van. We soon discover that Finn lives with his father and sister. Although the man turns out to be aggressive, insecure, and overly intolerant, even with his own children. At the start of the day, the siblings head to school. There, Finn notices a poster that catches his attention. He remembers that Bruce's father had been putting up missing person posters everywhere for days, judging by Gwen's expression. He suspects that his sister thinks they won't find the missing children. However, she confesses that even though she wants to believe otherwise, she doesn't think they will be found safe and sound. Suddenly, the whole school rushes to witness the next spectacle. They see a fight between Robin and the school bully. Calmly, Robin provokes his opponent to start the fight. When the other boy tries to hit him, Robin demonstrates his fighting skills, making him look ridiculous in front of all the kids around them. Even when his rival is lying on the ground with no chance of getting up, he continues to beat him. The siblings decide to walk away, and on the way they talk about the recent fight. Gwen comments that Robin has become the most dangerous boy in the whole school since the one everyone feared disappeared some time ago. Finn prefers not to talk about it, as he doesn't want to know about the disappearances, because deep down he believes that the grabber will end up taking away anyone who mentions him. Although his sister insists that this is nothing more than a story to scare children, we see the mysterious black van stalking the students again. A few hours later, his first class ends. Finn walks out into the hallway feeling somewhat uneasy, as some bullies are planning to beat him up. He tries to escape by locking himself in the bathroom to hide, but he knows it's useless and summons the courage to face them. The trio of bullies try to intimidate him, until luckily, Robin enters the bathroom to wash the blood from his hands after a previous fight. Immediately, the bullies are terrified. However, Finn is different. Robin is just a friend. Standing up to them, the boy warns them that if anyone dares to mess with Finn, he will make them pay. Without further ado, he orders them to leave. And when they are alone, Robin tells him that he must learn to defend himself, because he won't always be there to defend him. Finn asks him why he hit the other boy earlier, and Robin explains that he was just an idiot who needed to be put in his place. Although he admits to having really hurt him, he assures him that sometimes that's what you have to do to earn the respect of others. Meanwhile, Gwen is called to the principal's office. Some detectives want to talk to her. They ask her what she told Bruce's sister, the missing boy. Without beating around the bush, Gwen explains that she dreamed that Bruce was kidnapped by a man with black balloons who wore some kind of mask and drove a black van. Interestingly, those are the same confidential clues the police are working with, so they want to know if the girl can help them. However, she insists that it was just a dream and that it can't be real. Even so, the officers explain that black balloons were found at all the locations where the children were abducted, and they suspect that Gwen might know something they don't. Faced with this, The girl misinterprets the situation and becomes defensive, believing that they are accusing her of something. Very calmly, the detectives ask her what she is hiding, and she confesses that she sometimes dreams about things that end up coming true. When they leave school, the siblings say goodbye, as Gwen usually stays with a friend on Fridays. But the next morning, Finn wakes up startled by a commotion and, upon approaching, discovers his sister being brutally punished by his father, as the police had come looking for him at work. The man demands that she tell him everything she knows about the investigation, but she insists that she knows nothing. In a feeble attempt to defend herself, the girl threatens to break a bottle of vodka, but even that doesn't stop him. When she throws the drink on the floor, her father hits her harder and yells that she is not her mother, reminding her that that woman also claimed to be able to see beyond the physical, but it was just a mental illness. But as he forces her to repeat those words, Finn can only watch helplessly, unable to help his sister. Shortly after, while Gwen tries to pull herself together with her brother, we then see Robin run into the same black van that has ruined the lives of so many children. That calm night turned into a disaster. The phones in every house in the neighborhood ring. Robin has disappeared. Immediately, the police mobilize alongside volunteers to search for him. They searched everywhere all night, but all their efforts were in vain. This tragic news deeply affects Finn, so he asks his sister to try to dream so they can find out where he might be. Although Wen knows that her gift doesn't always work, she sets out to pray to God to allow her to see some clue in her dreams, something that might help them find him, even if only in the slightest. However, she must do so secretly from her father if she doesn't want to be punished again. Early in the morning, the detectives arrive at Finn's house to ask Mr. Blake for a moment alone with Gwen, as they believe that the girl could help them discover what is happening through her dreams. Without Robin at school, Finn is once again harassed by the same bullies as before, as there is now no one to stop them. The boy can do nothing but run, as he has no chance of standing up to the three of them. However, his sister is quite the opposite. She tries to help him, but ends up being attacked without mercy. After the beating, Finn still has to attend classes. There, the teacher asks the students to choose a partner to work with throughout the school year. He quickly finds himself alone at his desk, but to his surprise, the girl he likes approaches him to team up with him. She tells him that the whole school knows about the beating he received and regrets what happened, although she admits that Gwen was very brave to try to defend him. It's Friday and the siblings say goodbye again, as she will be spending the night at a friend's house. Because of this, Finn returns home alone, and on the lonely road he comes across a strange black van. Suddenly, a man drops his shopping bags and Finn offers to help him. The man introduces himself as a part-time magician and, while pretending to show him a magic trick, Finn notices the black balloons and realizes that it is too late, that he has fallen into the grabber's trap, who takes the opportunity to put him in the van. Stunned, our protagonist manages to vaguely perceive what is happening around him. He hears the grabber complaining about the wound on his arm that Finn had caused him while trying to escape. But now he finds himself locked up with a psychopath, a masked monster who assures him that he does not intend to harm him. Just then, he seems to hear someone calling him on the phone, so he leaves that terrifying room, leaving Finn completely alone, confused and terrified, as he does not know what will happen. Little by little, he gets up to try to escape, but the door is locked. He searches the place desperately and finds only a bathroom and a mysterious old black telephone hanging on the wall. He immediately tries to call for help, but soon realizes that it won't work. Slowly, he begins to accept his fate, just as the other children did, who disappeared in the same way. When Gwen is informed of her brother's disappearance, she runs desperately to his house in the middle of the night. There are dozens of police. Officers are looking for a way to locate him while she prays to God to find him. On the other hand, Finn thinks he hears the black phone ringing several times, but the grabber tells him that it hasn't worked since he was a child. The psychopath assumes he's scared, though he assures him that he'll take him back home very soon. Even so, Finn begs him to let him go, promising not to tell anyone. Otherwise, he'll scream until someone hears him, but the grabber warns him that he built the basement soundproof. Before leaving, the boy confronts him, accusing him of killing his friends. However, the man denies it and promises him that he would never do anything to him that he wouldn't like. When the psychopath leaves the basement, Finn starts screaming at the top of his lungs, hoping that someone will hear him and rescue him, but it's useless. He tries to reach the basement window to escape, or at least tries to push the heavy mattress, but realizes that he's acting impulsively. He stops to think of a solution, realizing that if there were any way out the window, someone would have tried it before. Maybe Robin would have succeeded. So, little by little, he begins to accept that he'll never get out of there. At that moment, the black phone rings again. Unable to believe it, the boy slowly gets used to answering it. No one answers on the other end of the line, so he hangs up again and tries to rest for a while. However, when he opens his eyes, he notices a strange light and is startled to see the grabber in the room, watching him in complete silence. He tells him he's hungry, but the man regrets not being able to bring him anything to eat yet. That's why he came downstairs to see him. Hours pass and Finn is alone in the basement again. He feels very hungry and thirsty. Until, in the middle of the night, the black phone rings once more. Without hesitation, he answers the call, even though he knows the device shouldn't work, and asks for help from whoever will hear him. Suddenly, someone on the other end of the line whispers his name, filling him with indescribable fear. When the phone rings again, the boy hangs up without a second thought, but it rings once more. This time, a male voice calmly tells him not to. Our protagonist asks who he's talking to, but the boy admits he doesn't remember his name, as that's the first thing you lose when you die. Finn asks how he knows him, and the boy reveals that he played a great baseball game against him, almost striking him out. Then he realizes he's talking to Bruce and asks if he also heard the phone working. Bruce admits it did and comments that even the grabber can hear him, though he denies it. After further confusing Finn, he reveals that he can dig in a hidden section of earth in the bathroom, though he doesn't get a chance to say if he'll be able to do it before it's too late, as the call abruptly cuts off, leaving only total silence. Immediately, we see a flashback to the life of that baseball-loving boy. From a young age, Bruce showed a great passion for sports, always surrounded by a family that loved and supported him in everything, until the day the grabber captured him. But suddenly, the scene changes, and we see Finn trying to open a door while shouting for help. In reality, all of this is a dream of his sister Gwen, who in the middle of the night leaves the house to look for the same door she saw in her dream. Meanwhile, he starts urinating in the bathroom, just as he was instructed, until he reaches his limit, hoping to escape alive. He waits patiently for the phone to ring again, but just then, the grabber comes down to the basement to bring him breakfast. However, when he leaves the door ajar. At this moment, he thinks this is the ideal time to escape, but the phone rings just as he's about to leave. Without thinking twice, he decides to answer the call. This time he talks to another boy who warns him not to go upstairs as it's a trap. Finn asks if he's talking to Bruce, but the boy replies that he doesn't know anyone by that name. While trying to figure out who he's talking to, we see the spirit of the boy trapped by the grabber, still unable to rest in peace. The only thing he remembers is that in life, he used to deliver newspapers every afternoon, which makes Finn realize he's talking to Billy. Once again, Billy begs him not to go upstairs, as the grabber is waiting to punish him with his belt if he tries to escape. He warns him that the madman will beat him unconscious and that, like all the others, he'll have to plead with him to stop. Though it will be in vain, when Billy hangs up, our protagonist decides to leave the basement anyway and dares to climb a few steps, knowing that the monster is waiting for him in the kitchen. However, at the last minute, he changes his mind and goes back down to lock himself in the basement to eat. When it's over, the boy falls asleep and wakes up when he hears the sound of the black phone again. Annoyed, Billy tells him not to call him by his name, since he doesn't know who he is. As his anger grows, the soda bottle on the floor begins to move until it suddenly reveals that he hit a wire somewhere in the floor, and with the bottle, he indicates what he should do. Meanwhile, his sister is still so distraught over his disappearance that she can barely sleep, so she is sent to the infirmary to rest. However, there, while she sleeps, she dreams about the boy who delivered newspapers. Billy had gone out that morning with his dog to do his job, until the grabber captured him and took him away in his black van. Gwen manages to see him in her dreams. He is holding black balloons and wearing a very peculiar mask. She even gets a glimpse of the house where he lives. Our protagonist gets the cable and tries to tie it to the window beams. But finding it difficult, he uses some objects from the basement to accomplish his purpose. Once he has it around the window bars, he tries to climb with all his might. until he thinks of tying a knot to help him climb up and open the window. However, the bars collapse under his weight and fall to the ground, leaving him with no possibility of escape that way. At the same time, Gwen tries to tell her father about her dreams, but the man doesn't even let her speak. He reminds her that her mother was somewhat disturbed, as she used to see things where there was nothing, and ended up convincing herself of the veracity of those visions, which slowly led her to take her own life. He tells her that although he loved her mother deeply, he tries to prevent her from suffering the same fate, as he only wants to protect her. Even so, the girl begs him to help her verify her dreams, and together they set out in the middle of the night, determined to find the house she saw in them. Meanwhile, the police continue their investigation and arrive at the home of a man named Max to ask him if he has seen Finn. It turns out that the man, due to his free time, has done his own research and managed to deduce how the grabber operates and in what area he might live. However, the officers begin to suspect him because of his behavior and ask him how long he has been in the city. Max replies that he is actually on vacation at his brother's house. It is then that we discover that right under his feet is the basement where the boy is trapped. After spending all night digging, the grabber comes down to give Finn breakfast and admits that he has never cared about the names of his victims, but this time he wants to know his, as things haven't been going well for him lately, and he might let him go if he tells him. Finn lies about his identity. This infuriates the grabber, as Finn is already listed in the newspapers as a missing child, and he's now certain he won't let him escape. Once again, the sick man leaves the basement, leaving the door ajar. Before Finn can open it, the black phone rings again. Of course, the boy answers, but no one responds. At that moment, we see the grabber falling, asleep as he patiently waits for his victim to fall into his sick game. Much later, Finney wakes up and sees a stain on the wall, but also a dead boy levitating. He points to the phone and answers it. Finn recognizes Griffin. He tells him that the grabber doesn't have much time left because he hasn't slept, and his brother might discover him. So he reveals that the grabber hasn't killed him because he hasn't played. He also tells him that the grabber fell asleep waiting for him to play. Then he notices that the door is open, and Griffin gives him the combination to the lock. Then the mission begins. Finney sneaks upstairs, enters the combination, and after many attempts, the door opens. But the dog barks and the grabber wakes up. Without hesitation, Finney runs as fast as he can. But the grabber catches him and warns him, if he calls for help or tries to escape, he'll kill him! Then he locks him up again. In the morning, Gwen is angry with God because she doesn't understand the clues she's been dreaming, and she hesitates to pray. She thinks it won't do any good. At the same time, the phone rings. Finney realizes it's Vance, a bully he used to be afraid of. He tells him that this is the end of his pathetic, miserable life. And we see his story. He liked to cause trouble for any reason, and that day the police arrested him. At that moment, Gwen connects with the dream. On the way, the radio turns on and we hear Finney's voice. Gwen recognizes it, and Vance points to the house, and Gwen realizes it's the grabber's house. Now we return to Finney. Vance tells him he has one more thing to try. In the bathroom, there's a hole leading to a refrigerator, and he can escape through it. He gives him instructions on what to do, and out of nowhere, Finney hears Vance die. Then he starts breaking down the wall. It takes him about 5 hours, but he gets to that part and uses the bathroom key to dismantle it. Inside, there's a lot of meat because he's reached the refrigerator, so he tries to hit it repeatedly to open it, but he can't because it's locked. This discourages him greatly, and he starts crying because he knows he'll never be able to escape. He's already given up, and at that moment, the phone rings. Here he answers Robin's call. He tells him that he's been with him this whole time, even though he hasn't seen him, and he knows he's not coming back, but at least this is the least he can do. He reminds him of what he said, that one day he'd have to defend himself, and today is the day. He knows that today he's going to get out of that place. And since he couldn't kill the grabber, Finney has to do it for Robin and for all the kids that crazy guy made suffer. So he tells him to fill that phone with the dirt they saw earlier.
The phone has to be heavy.
And then he has to practice, dodging and striking to defend himself against the grabber. Here, Robin says goodbye, telling him that this was the last call, and now it's up to him to finish this. Now Finn hangs up and fills the phone with dirt. At the same time, Gwen is looking for the grabber's house, but she can't find it. And at that moment, they appear because that's where the grabber's house is, and we see that Gwen is smart, and instead of going in alone, she went to call the detectives. At the same time, Max looks at his map and realizes that the area where grabber might be is his own house. So he goes to open the door to the basement and sees Finn goes to help him, but Grabber arrives and kills him. Outside, detectives and the police arrive, but they doubt it's Grabber's house. Downstairs, he's angry with Finn for making him kill his own family. He tells him that now he's going to join the others. He's going to kill him another way. Upstairs, the police think it's the wrong house because no one is there, and at the same time, Finn dodges the attack and goes after him. He makes Grabber fall into the hole he made, and he breaks his foot on the window bars. He also hits him repeatedly until he manages to pull off his mask. The Grabber is scared without it and takes advantage of the situation, starting to strangle him with the black phone. At that moment, the phone starts ringing. It's a call for him. All the children, and repeat many of the phrases we hear, in the calls until Finney kills him. Upstairs, the detectives were already leaving. But out of nowhere, they find a basement. Only Feeney isn't there. In that basement, he buried the other children. And on the other side, Finney emerges like a true champion from the Gabber's house. Without anyone's help, he did it alone and has the long-awaited reunion with his sister. Then we realized there were two houses and Finney was in the one across the street. All the police arrive to help them. Even their father apologizes to them and now he's going to value them as his children. Finally, it's all over. The Grabber is dead and everyone respects Finney because he finished him off. That's how Black Telephone ends. And thanks to everyone who's made it this far. If you liked it, leave a like and comment on what you liked most about the movie, and subscribe to the channel, or Grabber will come for you.